While the translators will not be here tonight, I'm going to give a few minutes for everyone to join in. Let me list an idea of why I'm giving this class, and then everyone can follow as they join. A lot of new people are joining my online classes. They don't know who I am. They don't know where to start and how to do it. I'm going to give the basic idea of what it means to study a personal path with someone like me and how to do it responsibly and healthy. The main keys of this class is freedom is absolute. You must belong to yourself. You can't belong to someone else. And you must still take responsibility for your human stuff. Oh my God, is this spiritual class going to be boring? Well, to have a healthy spiritual path, you have to consider that you need to belong to yourself. What I mean is, you will not reach enlightenment or gain the do the therapy you're looking for and hope to achieve your objectives if you belong to someone else. Okay. So if you bow to a guru, a master, if you depend on a religion, if you are submitted to some kind of spiritual authority, you're not going to emancipate yourself. You're going to feel inferior to something else. There is no true spiritual emancipation without pure freedom of your mind. So the trick here is to use the spiritual masters, the guide, the therapists, the teachers, in a way to inspire yourselves, but not depend upon them. Okay, that means freedom. Okay, we'll come into detail after that. The second part of this class is about responsibility. There is no spirituality while you're trying to flee your human responsibilities. There's bills to be paid, there's work to be done, we have to live one way or another. The dream of going onto some kind of temple and not work and just pray all day and meditate and learn mantras, this is not an honest motivation. It is actually through real life that we really grow spiritually. I will review all of this more in depth. I'm just doing small talk, allowing some people to connect because more and more are connecting now. And I will go deeper in each of those aspects, freedom and responsibility. So let's start with point number one, actually point 0.9, basically. Hello, my name is Maha Vajra. That's not my social name. I was not born with that name. My social name is François Lépine. I actually speak French. When I'm not careful with my accent, it is very obvious that I speak French. So I was born François Lépine, and I was given the name Maha Vajra through a Buddhist ordination. And like most Buddhist priests or spiritual masters, we decide to endorse our spiritual name as, it's traditional. But basically, it means nothing. They call me Maha because saying François is a bit too delicate for most languages, for most people. Point one, freedom. The obvious freedom is what I explained before. You have to belong to yourself. If you are questing for liberation of suffering, or enlightenment, or supernatural abilities, or just therapy for yourself, just to become autonomous and a good person, maybe, your mind must belong to you. You won't accomplish whatever you try to accomplish on a path if you are not completely the owner of your own mind. So if you study spirituality in a context where someone has an authority to tell you, to command you anything, then you will be diminished in that fashion. I was educated, I was a Swami in the Hindu tradition before I was a Buddhist. And I became a Swami after 7 years of studying with sadhus and Brahmins, basically people who would command the disciples, the masters who feel they have some kind of authority over the others. And basically, they taught us what not to do on a spiritual path. Okay? They showed me mind control or trying to get your students to do what you want is not the way to emancipate ourselves. So freedom from any kind of spiritual authority, including myself or any master, is essential. Thankfully, a lot of masters are that I know today actually endorse also that concept because we're all tired of vacuum salesmen or people who knock at our door trying to convince us of some kind of truth. We want to be autonomous. We went through the process of the religious ways, and it didn't really work out for us. I mean, being religious is not a problem. The problem is only when someone tries to have authority over you. Okay, so no, this is not a Christian approach. I agree. Nothing against Christians. I was born Christian, and the freedom is what appeals to me the most. The idea of you should use the wisdom of the masters that can inspire you. Use me as much as you want, and then you throw me in the garbage. You get rid of me. My pride will not be broken. I will be proud of you for achieving whatever you try to achieve and then liberating yourself, or at least being free during the entire process. So, freedom, the obvious freedom is you have to belong to yourself. And you never obey, you never do anything out of obedience. It's very important because that would endorse some kind of authority. If you do what a teacher or a master indicates, it's because you want to try stuff. Think about this. Everything you know already brought you to where you are now. So obviously, as you learn more stuff, um, you'll learn stuff that are contrary to what you knew in the past, or maybe that are conflicting with you. So these times, take the time to evaluate, think logically, feel emotionally. How are you in this when the teachings you get are a contradiction to what you believed? The thing is, if you want to grow, you're obviously going to learn stuff you didn't know. Some of the stuff you didn't know, you're going to learn, and they're going to be a contradiction to how you conceive life to be. So, in these times, to retain your freedom, consider the possibilities, but don't blindly go into someone else's point of view, even if he's apparently a super enlightened master or someone that has credibility. You have to take the time to feel good in whatever step you're taking with whomever guides you, one thing at a time. This is a way to preserve your freedom. Still, you're on a path to try new stuff, so try new stuff. But if that stuff gets you addicted, or if you feel like you're being set up into some kind of mind control situation, step back, take the time to breathe, evaluate yourself. Am I better in my life now? Is it worse? Does the technique work? Now, the way that the sadhu and the brahmins in the past they got us to become obedient is the first 2 years that you study with them, they only teach you the cool stuff. They only show you the wonderful teachings, the blessings, the therapy, the personal growth that really helps you alleviate the first load of weight off your heart. So these masters gain credibility because whatever they taught you, it worked. Yeah, because at first they don't want to offend you. They just teach you the easy stuff. And then they start to push, and then it becomes more and more. And after a few years, three of us students were living in the same apartment, so and we had no other means. We had lost contact with our families. There was a slow isolation process, where basically if we left the cult, if we stopped participating to these studies, it was so scary to find ourselves with no financial situation, with no roof, with no no one to talk to. I mean, and going back to our families, for some of us it was acceptable, for some of us it wasn't. It was a very slow process of isolation. Okay, so just be careful on a spiritual path. You're not supposed to cut ties with your family. I mean, if your family is really a big cause of suffering, the solution is not to cut ties. It is to find your power, affirm yourself, and distance yourself from the bullshit, but not necessarily cut off people that you've been close with your entire life. You know, so isolation is also some strategy that the spiritualists will be using sometimes to steal your freedom. I'll give you an example. Jehovah's Witnesses, one of their strategies, I mean, a lot of them do this, but Jehovah's Witness and the Krishna consciousness of Krishna movement, yeah, what they did is it gave them books. You have to go and you have to tell people about it. Okay, so these devotees, they go and tell people about it, either Jehovah or Krishna, because these are the two movements that use the most of the strategy. And the thing is, people are pissed at them. They are annoying. It's just like, stop talking to me, okay? And that causes these spiritual seekers to receive a lot of rejection from the population because we try to impose our views and the people react. So what it does, the goal of Jehovah's Witness is not to recruit more people. That's not it. It's to produce a rejection to the devotee repeatedly from society, so that emotionally the Jehovah's Witness or the one devoted to Krishna in the Krishna consciousness movement, they start to count only on the cult because everyone else keeps rejecting them. Of course, they keep rejecting them. The behavior is annoying. You don't go and try to convince someone of your views because no one wants that. Okay, so freedom is to not isolate yourself, to be autonomous, keep ties with your families and friends. Don't destroy your environment so quickly that you will not know where to base your life. Okay? So that you can remain free, remain functional as a human being on a spiritual path. And be wary of those who subtly try to isolate you. And then you start to count on them for any kind of wisdom, dharma, money, family, feelings. Uh, I had a girlfriend who was also in that movement I was studying with. I mean, it's all the Brahmanical stuff. It's all the. I mean, I'm a Swami. I got there, but the mind was only stuck in that path. My master is right. Anyone else has to be wrong. Okay, so the three signs of a cult that are important to notice: the guru is always right, and we have to obey him. Second is we are chosen by God or universe or whatever, and we are the elite. We are always right, and we are the best. Okay. So I spoke a lot about the guru is always right. That's not true. The guru has an experience of life, and sometimes it's quite wise to allow yourself to be inspired by a master or a guru or whoever is teaching you. But to be inspired does not mean to become addicted or to become submitted to their will. Okay, so you still have your own human decisions to do. That's the first step. Make sure the guru is not always right, or it doesn't matter. Basically, it doesn't matter if he's right or not. I remain the one to decide for me what I'm going to do. Okay. Secondly, we are chosen by God. Oh my God, this is the typical thing. We so much need to feel special that if we go into a cult that say we are chosen, we automatically feel special, and they use this need to be important to keep us in a cult or in a tradition that we are chosen, we are the elected ones, the chosen. Basically, in spirituality, if you believe in unity, if you believe in self-realization, in oneness, and equality amongst all beings, it is impossible for specific humans to be chosen and others not to be chosen. It's impossible because in oneness, in equity, everyone has the same possible potential to self-realize, and it doesn't matter if it doesn't count on a cult or a specific tradition, like which tradition is the good one. No, it counts on the person doing their own work for themselves. Okay, So the concept of being chosen by God is an absolute no-go for any kind. If you see anything like that, don't believe it. Okay. Some masters feel I am the new God, I'm the new Krishna, the new Jesus, the new Buddha. I'm the one who came to bring enlightenment. So I am the one, meaning that they find themselves to be exclusive, the only one. The thing is, I've experienced that. Not this I am the one, but I experienced what these people experience. Once you feel oneness, you experience yourself in a emancipated flow of consciousness in all things, and you feel one with everything, and you feel God in all things, and you feel yourself as God. That is when we experience Vishnu, like a supreme state of being, and that's completely acceptable. This is a very good accomplishment. But once we have felt the oneness, we go back to a local self as an ego, and we think, hey, I am the only God. No, see, that's not true. We felt as the one God when we were not limited to our ego, but emancipated in supreme consciousness. Once limited back to ourselves, we're just another guy, just another girl trying to make the next step in our spiritual path. Okay? So those masters who affirm I am the savior, the one, I have more competence than the others, all of this is just because they're immature. They experience Vishnu, or they experience oneness or Buddhahood um, so rarely that the few times they got it, like they're beginning, basically they're starting at the higher level of accomplishment. So it's normal that the ego attributes that, oh yeah, I feel that I'm the one God. Yeah, but actually once you realize a Vishnu state purely without your own personal arrogance, everyone is Vishnu. Everyone is one with all things, because one with all things mean all things. It cannot be exclusive to one individual. It has to be all beings. Okay, so be wary about that. Also, these are nice indicators that someone will try to have authority over you. Okay, um, so no chosen. The third one, oh, we are the elite. No, again, we can't be better than others. When your tools work, you can say that they work. When you practice spirituality and you gain benefits from that, it means that you gain benefit from that. And that's it. It doesn't mean it's better than others. But we need this superiority. Oh, my methods, they work. They have to be better than someone else's. Well, until you try it, you don't really know. Okay. So any feeling of superiority in a technique is caused by arrogance. It's caused by a power trip. The truth is, if a technique works for you, it works. So you want to do it again. But the need to impose it on someone else, the need to compare and say mine is better than yours, that's also a cult-like attitude. Okay. So be wary of these three things. The guru is not always right. He's just a guy with experience. We are chosen. It's impossible. Oneness overrides that. And we are the elite. If you find your techniques good, then they're good. It's personal. Okay. Everyone else has their own thing in there. Okay. So we cannot be better than others. It is for you efficient or not. Okay. So these were a few points. All of this was about the freedom outside. Now let's talk about the freedom inside. Now this one is going to be hard. I'm going to use the typical Visantara dialogue here. The last time you got angry, did you choose it? Of course not. And was it fun? No, it wasn't. Anger rises inside as a response to something. Okay. So as much as we say we want to be free, and we think in terms of freedom like applied to the outside, we want to be free of everything around, but are we free inside of ourselves, of our own animal reflexes, of our genetics, of our greed or hatred? Freedom inside will become another quest. It will be a long process, but it will very quickly give you positive results if you do the practices. Finding freedom from the impulse to get angry, that will be a very nice step to discover your own freedom. Because we have reactions inside based on so much emotional implications that, okay, I'll give you an example. You will say, I don't care what others think of me. It's easy to say it on the top of your head, intellectually, I don't care what people think about me. But then at some point, a few days after, you learn that the second cousin of the hairstylist of the grandmother of your neighbor saw you once and thinks that you are just a, pejorative comment here. The moment that you learn that someone has a negative thought about you, what? What does he say? Why did he say that? Why? We become so defensive. So it's so easy to say, I don't care what people think when it's little superficial thing or when it's extremely peaceful in your life, when you have no trigger. But the truth is, are you honest with yourself? Do you really not respond when you learn someone has a negative opinion about you? It takes a bit of honesty with yourself because that is losing your freedom. That is thinking one thing, but truly being something else. It takes honesty with yourself. It takes humility to admit, where am I really on my personal growth or my spiritual path? Where am I? Who am I for real? Do I really know all of that? So when we start being a new age hippie, the first thing we do is read a ton of books and we say, okay, now I'm grateful for everything. I forgive everyone. I love the entire humanity, until you learn that someone did something that you really believe is not acceptable. Like, would you forgive murderers? It's not obvious. It's something that I would struggle myself. Okay. Would you forgive rapists? Would you forgive someone who personally stole something from you? It's easy to say that you forgive. Do you even know what forgiveness implies? That's going to be a lot of work on yourself just to discover what is forgiveness. I'll give a parenthesis here. Forgiveness does not mean that what they did is right. If someone did you wrong, forgiving them does not mean that it was right what they did. It's not about justice. Forgiving someone is to not carry on your heart the suffering of that experience. For example, I forgave the guy who murdered my brother. Yes, I had a brother and he was assassinated, he was killed. And I forgave the guy. I even held him in my arms to tell him, I forgive you. You need to live your life knowing I forgive you. That's not obvious. And my parents did the same because my parents are saints and they can do this. It was not a forgiveness to say it is right what you've done. It is a forgiveness to say, I'm not going to carry this pain. I'm going to mourn and move on instead of holding a terrible grudge against someone that will just drag me down the rest of my life. Okay. So even in the context of forgiveness, there still has to be justice. Take, for example, someone expects your forgiveness. Oh, I've done something wrong. Do you forgive me? And if you forgive them, they won't correct their behavior. So basically, blind forgiveness or forgiveness that irresponsibly allows injustice to proceed, it will not encourage people to correct their behaviors. And sometimes these behaviors, they have to stop. So forgiving a rapist doesn't mean that he doesn't go to jail. I mean, someone caused suffering to such an extent that they have to pay or they have to correct their behaviors, or if they behave like animals, we put them in cages because that's what we do with animals. Okay. So forgiveness is a very deep topic, and it's not about saying it's okay, what you did to me is acceptable. That's not it. Forgiveness is an entire process of understanding inside, and I'll give a class on forgiveness later this week or next week, and we'll have a full hour on that. So forgiveness is a way to understand the experience inside. What am I living through this? And how can I free myself from all the intense reaction I have against some injustice that was done to me? Okay. So that's another way to conceive freedom. Freedom inside, freedom from The suffering inside is going to be a totally different quest than the freedom outside. Okay. Still, we have to start with the freedom outside. We have to start our spiritual path and our personal growth path with our own mind belongs to us, our own heart belongs to us. We don't owe obedience to anyone. Even more, I would say you don't obey your boss. Okay, the boss has no authority over you. You do what your boss tells you in exchange for money. So it's not obedience, it's business, it's an agreement. If you don't get the paycheck, you're not going to do the work. So it's not obedience, it's an agreement. The boss needs to be the authority or the person in charge in the hierarchy because the boss needs to give you instructions on what to do. Okay. And then he needs to validate the quality of that work to see if it's worth paying you or not. But you do this because you're being paid. So it's an agreement. So whenever you see your boss like a commanding figure and you have trouble with authority, look inside yourself and do you have a problem with authority? Do you have this anarchic revolt inside you that needs to defy authority? Because this is when you're going to be aggressive every time your boss tells you to do something you don't like. Or, I mean, if you're paid to do what he says. Okay. And sometimes, I mean, if the boss could do it, he wouldn't have hired you. So maybe you're better than your boss at his own work. But the thing is, he's the one paying you. Okay. So a way to free yourself from the idea of authority is to see yourselves having agreements with people. Your wife or husband doesn't have authority over you. You have an agreement. It's called a relationship. Both of you have to find equity and comfort and happiness in that. With the boss, the same thing. With the family and the parents and the children, it's all about we're society and we work together. We live together, and there's no option. This is how it is. Okay, you can't go and flee into a temple or in some kind of ivory tower and hope one day to accomplish yourself. It doesn't work that way. Well, I imagine some people would do that, but then how do they eat or feed themselves? I mean, there needs to be interaction with the world at one point. Okay, so freedom outside is the first topic I wanted to talk about, and then the freedom inside is going to be a completely different ballgame. The second part of this class is responsibility. Okay, Sakyamuni, the Buddha, okay, the one who created Buddhism, one of his most relished teachings is called the Diamond Sutra. It is cryptic, it is abstract, paradoxal at times, and it is difficult to understand when you read it freshly. Okay, and it is regarded as one of the biggest teaching on to free yourself from illusion. Let's talk about the first paragraph of that sutra. So, in a sutra like this, the reader will think, oh, the first paragraph is just setting us in motion, just describing the situation, then the teachings will follow, okay? So they discard the importance of the first paragraph. The first paragraph of the Diamond Sutra basically says, in my interpreted words, but you can read it yourself online, before the Buddha did anything spiritual, he went to work, he begged, because that was his work, he went to beg, and he went to the village to receive some food for the day. He went back home, he fed himself, he cleaned himself, he cleaned his feet, he changed his robe from the robe to go back to the meditation robes, and he made sure that the temple was clean. Okay, so he looked around, okay, and everyone together got together to make sure that the environment was correct. And then they sat and they started to talk about the Dharma. Okay, what does that mean? That means that the most cherished teachings of the Buddhist canon says before you do anything spiritual, work, pay your bills, clean up, make sure that you have a roof, answer your basic needs. Okay? This is such a beautiful lesson for spiritualists who want to flee in the heavens and avoid the realities of this world. I was a beggar in the street for a bit more than 9 months, less than a year. In Canada, it's pretty cold outside, but when the pain of hunger is stronger than the pain of cold, you go outside and you beg anyway. Um, I thought that I was free. I was a spiritual seeker and I was free of the system. But that was bullshit. I was almost homeless. I had a wooden floor and a roof, so I wasn't technically homeless, but I was borderline. I actually got evicted from this simple place. So yeah, I was kind of homeless for a day until I, find solution. But I was irresponsible. I was not free of the system. I was I was just trying to leech and steal, and I was not being honest with myself. I was not strong. I was not powerful. I was trash, saying beautiful words like compassion and forgiveness, not really knowing what it means. Okay. So this is where I learned, okay, go work, find a job. You can't just live in the street and be in pain physically. Basically, a bit like what the Buddha did. He went and lived an extremely ascetic life. And Sakyamuni Buddha decided this is not the way to do it. The middle path is the way to do it. Don't have excess luxury, but don't have nothing. Have a nice life. The middle class of your society usually is good. Then there's a sutra, the Sutra of Innumerable Meanings, where the Buddha explains you can be poor and be in service to humanity and become a bodhisattva. And you can be completely rich and have all the luxuries that you want and be in service to humanity and become a bodhisattva. So basically, doesn't matter your level of lifestyle, but asceticism, to just deprive yourself out of sacrifice, to push yourself to the extreme, is not a happy way to accomplish yourself. And actually, it prevents the full emancipation because your body is constantly shouting to you, something's wrong, something's wrong. You have to stop that. Okay? So the greatest master of Buddhism, the Buddha himself, the one who provided us with the greatest teaching, the Diamond Sutra, starts by saying we have to be responsible at the human level. Okay, so be prudent. I'll give an example of that. When you want to live here and now, there's a lot of teachings about living here and living now. The thing is, you're not being prudent if you never plan ahead. If you only live in now, you spend the money you have, and you say, "I'll trust it." We're born like in the jungle, and God will bring abundance and fortune to those who pray. The thing is, I see people just scratching for pennies to try to eat every little day because they have not planned ahead, because they don't think in terms of remaining happy. So if you want to live now, one thing you should do is make sure that now remains a happy moment now. Okay, and that means make sure that when tomorrow is going to happen, tomorrow is going to be now when it happens. Every time, everything that will happen in the future, when it happens, it will be now. Okay, because you've never lived something that is going to happen in the future. It's now. Okay, so if you want to make sure that now remains a happy moment, plan ahead, do a budget, look at what comes in and what comes out, make sure that you're on a roll and everything should be fine. And sometimes this is life. We seem to have more expenses than income, and this is time to find solutions. And the solution is not only to pray. Prayer is going to be a mild influence. Mostly, you have to find creative ways to make more money in a legal way that respects your society and be more productive. So move, just go work. Basically, is that. A few of you have a situation where your country does not allow you to have enough income, so you're stuck in poverty. Yeah, bummer. But the majority of places in the world, the minimum is insured, and the situation with money is always good, and you can eat every day and be comfortable in your own home, and you know, there's always a creative way to find solution. So anyway, this that has to do with not only karma, but your society. Sometimes it's not karma, it's just you were born in a world like that, and it's harder for some, easier for others. That's how it is. Freedom and responsibility. That is what I wanted to talk about mostly in this class. Okay. Before I finish, I want you to think about if you have any questions regarding freedom, the freedom outside, freedom from authority, or responsibilities. What do I mean by responsibility? If there's something not clear in that, um, think about the question and post them in the comments. And I am going to load my own page because I can't see the comments here. All right, so yeah, you can go ahead. I missed them because I don't know. You can create an event ahead of time. Okay, that was not related. Sorry. So we're gonna take a moment to go and do a spiritual practice. Okay, to live here and now. Okay, and then you're gonna see how we apply it to freedom and responsibility. So you pay attention to yourself and you breathe and you relax into it. And you're only conscious of yourself. And you think about here, now, whatever that means, okay? The more you've worked on yourself, the more it means something, okay? Actually going to load the comments on my cell phone. You're just conscious of yourself and you think, sometimes we get angry. Sometimes we are unhappy. Sometimes we are challenged. Life is not always fun. Sometimes we have difficulties and trials. Think about that. Life has challenges. So I'm paying attention to myself, I'm breathing. Do I sometimes have insecurity? How about financial security? Does it happen? Just be conscious of it. Sometimes I'm afraid. For some it's often, for some it's rarely. Do I have emotional insecurity? Am I disturbed being away from my loved ones during this time of quarantine, for example? Do I have a difficulty being at peace in my bed at night? Some of you have someone in your bed, but some of you have not. My bed is big and empty, and I sometimes miss feeling someone close. I understand that. It's simply not appropriate to break the quarantine right now, so I'm not doing it. How does it feel to have emotional or financial security? Do you have both? Just be aware of it and breathe and feel and pay attention. If I don't take charge of my life, financially or emotionally, am I going to have more insecurities? Of course. Does it make sense if I decide to just let go and be indifferent? Oh, I want to be a spiritual person. I just want to send everyone to hell and be indifferent to any trial and make it like if nothing would be happening. Just be honest with yourself. Are you really going to be more happy by disregarding your responsibilities? Yeah, it's not going to happen. Regarding finances, you know what to do. Just be responsible. Consume less is a way to augment your income when it's possible. Emotionally, learning personal growth is a solution. To diminish your emotional insecurities, the method is to simply do personal growth. Learn to deal with emotions as they arise. Emotional integration is the technique that I teach and practice the most. And it has to do with being honest with yourself and allowing yourself to feel what you feel and then trying to understand intellectually what's going on there. Okay. Emotional integration is about embracing what you feel instead of fighting it, allowing yourself to be emotional, not dramatic in front of other people because that's just to attract attention, but alone by yourself. If you want to be autonomous emotionally, you have to be able to face them alone and give yourself the right to live the emotions you live without breaking anything, without doing any drama. You're not causing a scene. Just allow yourself to live it. And then you ask yourself the question, what is my behavior that caused these emotions to come in place? What is my way of thinking, my way of feeling that causes me to have so much grief or so much difficulties financially or emotionally or mentally? I'll take an example. If a lot of people don't like you, as a reflex, you'll start to think the world is filled with assholes. They don't understand you. They just don't understand. This is not a reaction to reassure yourself that you're not wrong. But the thing is, if there's a lot of people frustrated at you, aren't you the cause of that suffering? Maybe you're the one who has to study your behavior. Am I doing something that causes the world to reject me? Okay. If the world is not in agreement with you, you don't have to be in agreement with the world. That you don't have to do that because your freedom is you have the right to be exactly who you are. However, if it causes you pain to not be able to be in contact with others, maybe I am the one who behaves in a way to be rejected. Okay. So this is where personal growth is essential, where you will look at your emotions. Why am I so angry? Why am I such a rebel or constantly reacting? Because that causes others to be unhappy with me, and therefore I end up all alone. Did you ever lose a lover because they couldn't stand you? It's not a proper way to court someone by just being intolerable or insufferable. I understand that over a lifetime of trials and suffering, a lot of this pain rises, and a lot of the anger is just on the surface trying to get out. Yes, I understand that. But if you are stuck with that anger and it always explodes in the face of others, they will know you as an angry person and they will stay away from you. They will say, no, we can't be close because it's frightening. Okay. Do you cause people to become afraid of you by taking a role of authority or having this straight, hard posture when you talk? Always have a deep voice. Leave me alone. You don't know what you're talking about. You're such an idiot. If you have this strong facade, maybe people are afraid of you. Maybe that's why you're lonely. Okay, anger will go against your freedom and it will go against your sense of responsibility. So now we're going to speak about anger a bit because anger prevents you from thinking straight. Anger, when it rises, it makes you say things or do things or take decisions that are unwise. They're just impulsive and self-destructive. Okay. Anger comes from disappointment. When you're angry, it's because something is not happening the way you want. Okay. This disappointment probably was cumulative in life. So now you would be angry at anything without even realizing. You'd just be angry, angry, angry all the time. Okay. Or dramatic. Some people go dramatic instead of angry. Okay. This comes from a repeated nourishing of disappointment after disappointment. That becomes so strong it causes you to stay reactive. It keeps you in this wall, this facade. Okay. So to break that, you have to look back and feel in your guts, what am I disappointed about? What is the big disappointments in my life? What is the thing that ruins me inside? Really, what am I missing? And that won't be anger. That will be sad. That will be troubling or unsettling. That will that will crush you inside if you had a lot accumulated. But it is the process that is necessary to go and break your anger, is to go back. What am I really disappointed about? And you go back in the past. It can be a disappointment about yesterday, but maybe it has to do with your childhood, your teenagers, your own life as moments of disappointments that are still stuck in there. And they keep you in this reactive fashion. So when you're reacting, you're not free inside. So that removes your free will. It makes you react like automatically to any stimuli that reawakens your disappointment from the past. Okay? So against your personal freedom, your anger and your disappointments have to be studied and felt. You have to embrace them and give yourself a good seance of grieving, of mourning what you have lost and lose it. Just allow yourself to lose it. If it was a past lover, lose it. If it was violence done to you, what you lost at this point is your self-respect and your integrity. So, yeah, as hard as it is, lose it. Lose your pride. Lose your importance. It hurts. You lost it. So go through the mourning. It's part of the repairing process and the liberating of the disappointments to give yourself a chance to mourn when you were hurt, when you were the victim or the target of other people's aggressivity, or when you were done things that are unjust and you disagree. Disappointments, they accumulate and they charge you inside and make you feel heavy. Okay. So going back in the past is necessary. While you have disappointments charged inside, your anger reactions will be fresh on the outside. You'll act like an asshole. You'll feel so proud of yourself, but then this will repulse others, and you will lose your freedom within. Okay, and you'll also lose your sense of responsibility because you'll do things and then regret. Oh my, did I do that again? Oh my God. For me personally, when I was a young adult, when I got severely drunk, I would act like an asshole because taking alcohol would remove my inhibitions. So I had all that holy training that we have to behave like a holy man, namaste, and gratitude and happiness to the world. But I got drunk and my inhibition fell off. So all this masquerade of the uber spiritual guy, it showed the asshole I was. And then I wondered, like, why do people don't like me? Because I was attacking them. I didn't realize it, but I was attacking them subtly, okay? Very subtle with comments and jokes and my facade, I'm better than you, okay? So eventually I resolved that disappointments, accumulated disappointments. For me, personally, was not violence done unto me. I have been done violence in my childhood. Thank God not by my parents, but by the environment, the people. But that was not the biggest disappointment I carried. The biggest was socioaffective dependencies. Basically, needing to be loved so much, I would cling like a freaking leech, trying to suck people, and I became the annoying guy. Okay, because I was a succubus, I was a vampire. I've been that. So that was a lot of disappointment that I had to go back and look at myself and say, what have I not mourned? I'm not getting the love I want. And because I did not mourn that love, because I don't allow myself to go through the heartbreaks, what happens is I keep hunting for the love. And becoming a hunter, I mean, you know how it feels when you have a love hunter around. They just hunt for the love. They want to take it by force. Like if you were an animal and you were its prey. It's so annoying. It's so aggressive. So if you are like that, or if you have been like that, you have to look in your past and say, I carry disappointment with me, and I'm charged, and I'm too heavy, and I need to let go of that. So how the hell do I do that? Well, We'll do it again, just in case you didn't get it. Go in your guts and feel it and mourn, lose. I lost love. I didn't have the care I was expecting. And then intellectually, we would say, but what is a kid supposed to do? Your parents are supposed to care for you, and I didn't get the care I wanted from my parents. I understand this is the logical response intellectually, but the truth is, if you didn't get that care, you didn't. I was lucky enough to get the care from my parents, but the environment was poor, so I was not cared by the environment. So yeah, some of you is the parents. The parents were not wise, or they also had their own anger issues, and you got it in your face. So is it like, but you were supposed to be loved by your parents. You're supposed to be loved by your wife or your husband. You're supposed to, yeah, you were supposed to, but you were not. If you were not, mourn, lose it. You've lost it. This battle is over. You lost. Okay. So these quick answers in your head, yeah, but they had the responsibility to love me. I understand. That's how we think. But the thing is, they didn't. If they didn't, if somewhere in your life you lost love or you didn't get it when you wanted it, you didn't get it. It's a fact. And that disappointment is strong inside you. So mourn it. Go there, do yourself long sessions of 20 minutes, half an hour to lose. Just lose. Let yourself break down. Don't be violent. Don't break anything. Don't cause a scene. And don't cry or theatralize your emotions in a way to get attention from someone, because then your consciousness is not on you, it's on the attention you get. Okay, so do it wisely, do it responsibly. Just suffer as genuinely and responsibly as you can. And that will give you enough time to go inside and dissolve the weight of hatred and anger towards yourself that you carry along. And one more step, you'll be a better person. And then, more free of the weight inside, you'll have more personal freedom, because much less often the disappointments will rise to pop outside in the form of anger. Okay? So that means more freedom. That means also more responsibility, emotional responsibility. I am the one who lives my own suffering, and I don't need to impose it on others. As you discover personal freedom and responsibility, then the outside freedom and responsibility will also be easier to address. Keeping myself free of others' reaction of anger. Oh, someone's angry at you. I just thought about something. Let's make a long parenthesis here. If you can admit that when you are angry, you did not choose it, it's your disappointments that rose so strongly and so quick that you reacted with anger. If you can understand that mechanics, maybe you can understand it's what others do too. So when someone gets angry and you are witness of that, maybe they didn't choose it. So maybe your pride is offended by their anger or by their attitude or their arrogance towards you. But do you really think that they're choosing that? Maybe they have their own shit to work, right? Because it's the case for you, it has to be the case for them. So that's another way to ensure a form of freedom outside, is understand that the other are dealing with their own stuff. And maybe they're not really angry at you. Maybe they're just angry, period. And it came out on you. So that's one step towards forgiveness. It doesn't mean that they have the right to be angry at you, but it helps us understand why they are angry. And maybe they're disappointed about something. Use this wisdom to understand the mechanics of your interaction with others and find constructive solutions that are not based on fighting until you obtain it. Okay, so that's good. End of the long parenthesis. Let's summarize. Stay free from anyone outside, any kind of power that some other human being wants over you. Free yourself from that. But that means you still will be responsible financially and emotionally. You will work, you will go to your job, you'll respect your boss because we don't bite the hand that gives us the bread or the food. It's important to be responsible at the level, okay, and remain free. Okay, so all this freedom and responsibility, it's important to go hand in hand in society. And once you understand it outside, now go and apply it inside. What are the forces inside me that make me react and that makes others not want to be with me? What isolates me? What causes me to be alone in my own suffering? And what causes me to do bad decisions or have spontaneous aggressive reactions? Okay, so to be responsible of who we are inside and free from whatever we would want to project. Basically, that summarizes the class today. Yeah, that was that. Now let's see. Being free from self-anger and how to be responsible for it. Well, okay. Self-anger, it comes from hatred. Okay, so self-anger is self-hatred, same thing, different magnitude, but it's the same force. Okay. Let's say you have a disappointment in your childhood, your teenagers, young adult, you have a disappointment. It is still there, but you did not take care of it. Now a situation in life happens and you have a spontaneous reaction and you did not act appropriately. Okay, so you ended up with a consequence with the bad decisions you made. That will cause you to look at yourself and say, ah, shit, I did a bad thing. I am not good. So now you're disappointed in something that caused you to do a mistake, so yet you'll be disappointed at you and have the weight of both of these things. Okay? The solution is simple. Everything you did not know of life, you have to forgive yourself of not knowing it before you actually learned it. What you did not know, how to manage life, how to deal with emotions and anger, how to react in certain situations, what you did not learn from life until you learned it. I mean, you have to forgive yourself. You just didn't know. We do our best with what we have, and then we learn there's a better way to do it. Okay, so self-hatred, or to be angry at ourselves, do the step of disappointment and mourning what you have lost. Mourn your unwise moment, your idiot moments, your stupid reactions, your aggressive reactions. Forgive yourself as much as you can, thinking, I just did not know. I've been trying my best, but this force is so strong that sometimes it took over. So, in the same way, until you master yourself in a state of peace or compassion, or at least responsibly when you're aggravated, until you gain that mastery of yourself, forgive yourself for not knowing better and not being able to do better before you actually could. Without training in personal growth, it is impossible to surpass the power that your human animal has inside, and it will rush out the moment that your genetic response are engaged. So if someone attacks you, insults you, if someone comes to you, they didn't do their personal growth, so you become a victim of that, you become the target of their comments, you will respond to, and then you have two people that will cause suffering and nourish each other's suffering. Both of you will go home, it's like, shit, I did not handle this well, and you'll hate yourself on top of that. Okay, so it's just forgive yourself for not knowing before knowing it. I mean, it's life. You go through life, it's like learning how to play a game without any manual, without instructions. And when you die, what you get, what you win is the instruction manual. I mean, you just don't know where you're going. Any other question? Yeah, I think we're good with this one. Cool. Guys, It is a long process, the process of personal growth. It is a long path, and there's uncertainties. You never know where you're going to end up and how you're going to end up inside. But rest assured, from someone who tried all the funky, hippie, new age ways, riding a unicorn on a rainbow, smoking a Rhodes quartz after reading every single new age book available at the time, do not do the mistakes of scrapping your simple human stability. It's good to get out of your comfort zone, but there's responsible ways to do that. Instead of becoming homeless, maybe you can do trials like pushing yourself to not eat for 3 days, but only if your health allows it. Okay, that's called fasting, and then you'll do it for 6 days, and then you try 9, and you see how far you go. But only as your health permits it. If you're not sure, ask your doctor; it'll tell you. Financially, I mean, there's spiritual masters that you love their wisdom so much, but the classes are so expensive, and you give everything, and then they motivate you. They will tell you in class, um, don't take impulsive decisions on feelings. But after a class and everyone is cranked up, okay, now you have to believe in yourself. Subscribe to the next class. It's only $10,000 or 1,000, whatever. I mean, it's an abuse, okay? So be careful. If you're going to ruin your lifestyle to follow spiritual classes, you're going to end up causing yourself more grief, and you're not going to advance as fast as you can, okay? So I'm just going on with examples and examples. There's a million examples on how you have to remain free and responsible in order to do an efficient spiritual path or personal growth path. And once you understand outside, you have to work inside also to be free inside and responsible inside. And that will take a lot of work. Peace to you all. I love you guys. When we bow, it's not out of obedience, it's out of gratitude. Okay. So thank you. Thank you so much. And I will see you next time.